Darkspeed's heart felt momentary joy as all three of them were now being guided nearer to each other. He knew they would be safe. The explosion didn't catch him or injure those he was protecting. Because I'm just that fast, Darkspeed thought to himself. The three in the thick air had now slowed to an apex. Cosmos placed a bubble around the three and pulled it close to his own. The two bubbles joined, and then Cosmos was looking directly at Darkspeed. "Who's the old guy?" Cosmos asked. "It's Stan. We need to get to the ground. Omni's still in there," Darkspeed said. "Did he get Vector?" Cosmos said as his bubble moved faster than Darkspeed cared to go right now. "Vector wounded him with some kind of super weapon. He's dying." Cosmos didn't believe anything could hurt Omni, but the bubble moved quicker just the same. On the ground, the bubble dissipated and the healers jumped at the two wounded. Bioforce was quick to touch her teammate, She. "Who?" Wave started to ask. "His name is Stan. Take good care of him," Cosmos said. "I'm sure the tunnels collapsed or caved in. We need to get Omni out of there," Darkspeed said, looking at the ground. "Can't he just fly out?" Olympian said. "Vector used a super weapon. Darkspeed said Omni's dying," Cosmos said. "He must be 300 feet underground. How do we get him up?" Darkspeed asked. "His Omnium armor," Virtuoso said as she pointed to Cosmos. Cosmos knew what she was talking about. Cosmos' eyes turned electric blue, and he used his power. Without too much effort, he felt down and recognized the armor he made. He also felt the foreign golden shaft and the steel it was embedded in. Cosmos vaporized the ground above Omni and floated the steel slab to the surface. Omni was still impaled through the heart with the golden spike. His arms were still moving in a vain effort to get the shaft out. Bioforce had just finished healing She. "Get rid of the steel and lay him on his side," Bioforce said. Cosmos did as she said. The steel disappeared like a popped soap bubble. Then Omni was gently set down in the sand on his side. Bioforce was quick to check Omni's vital signs with the touch. "He's alive. Get rid of his upper body armor and the spike," Bioforce ordered. Wave now had Stan sitting up. He didn't look like the old man in the nursing home. The young healer had given him a temporary boost of life energy, of youth. The remarkably old man found his way to his feet in his hospital pajamas. Cosmos had used his power to get the Omnium armor off, but the golden spike persisted. Cosmos summoned all the power he could and placed his hands on the spike. Energy crackled in his hands and around the spike. Nothing happened. "What is this stuff even made of? I've never felt anything like it before," Cosmos blurted. Bioforce reached down and touched the spike. She used her bioscan power to read into the object. Her eyes went wide with revelation. "It's part of him! It's part of Omni! It has a DNA signature just like his! It's feeding off of his matrix power! It's made itself invulnerable," Bioforce said. "Then how do you get it out?" Stan asked. "I don't know," Bioforce said. "Think. You have a problem. Find a solution." "I'll try to make the DNA shift so it can't leech off of him." Bioforce put her hand on the golden spike and concentrated. "Darkspeed, find Mercy," Stan said. "Virtuoso, get Dr. DeClute here now," Darkspeed said. Virtuoso disappeared and reappeared holding Dr. DeClute by the arm. The startled woman looked around and saw Omni on the ground. "What happened?" Dr. DeClute asked. Virtuoso gave her the telepathic rundown of what had happened the last minute. Bioforce fell back from the golden spike and made a pained face. "His invulnerability is just too strong. I can't do anything," Bioforce said. Omni's eyes rolled back in his head from the pain. The spike had now grown 2-inch barbs that protruded in all directions. Dr. DeClute wrung her hands as she thought of what to do. Darkspeed turned his brain up to high speed and tried to think of any trick that might work. "Even if we got that spike out of him, I don't know if he would live," Shroud said. "Of course he would," Stan said. Eyes darted to Stan as Dr. DeClute asked, "How do you know?" "When Omni was young, we went up against General Disintegration. It was the first time he was ever hit by a disintegration ray. Omni lost an arm in that fight. I can't remember which one. He was invulnerable to disintegration after that. The point is, he healed instantly from the wound. He heals instantly from any wound, so long as he's alive." Darkspeed started to open his mouth. Bioforce shot a hand up for him to be silent. She started thinking fast of what she learned from her experience with IQ. She was sure this was a problem she could solve. "We need to let him get as close to death as possible. When his matrixed power starts to break down, the spike should become vulnerable. We need to get it out as soon as possible." Fractions of a second will count, Bioforce said. You want me to do it? Cosmos said. I want you and Olympian to do it. You do your best to make the whole thing flexible and soft so it can be pulled out. Olympian will pull it out. That way, it should come out as his invulnerability drops down past a 10 or so. He'll drop from infinity to 0 pretty fast, Dr. DeClute said. That's the plan. Get to it, Stan said to overrule doubt. Olympian didn't bother to try and look cool or pose. He sat behind Omni and put his feet against his back. With both hands on the spike, he started to pull. His hands were quick to slip off. There's no grip, like it's frictionless, Olympian said. Hands back in place, she said as she stood over Olympian. Olympian wrapped his hands around the spike again. She placed her hands on top of Olympian's. He felt his hands start to squeeze onto the spike. She was using her attraction power to make the two inseparable. Forgot about that, Olympian said. Cosmos put his hands on the part of the golden spike that was sticking out of Omni's chest. His eyes burned with blue energy as he focused all he could into the spike. Omni felt his life force draining away. He thrashed and knocked Cosmos backward. The pain on Omni's face was heartbreaking to the other alphas. Stan knelt next to Omni's head and took his face in his hands. Don't fight it, son. They're doing their best to help you, Stan said. Cosmos bounced back into position and placed his hands back on the golden spike. Eclipse put his giant hands on Omni's legs to keep him from rolling over. I know you're a fighter. I know you want to fight this, but you need to relax. You need to just let go, Stan said. Omni's pained face looked back at the old man's face. Omni had tears draining sideways from the pain in his body. Stan's eyes started to well up from the pain he saw on the face of the man he considered his son. Omni's face started to relax, and the last few breaths were not forced by pain. Bioforce placed a hand on Omni's bare torso. She could feel the heart stopping in his chest. His heart stopped! Can't you move that thing yet? Bioforce said. Cosmos redoubled his efforts to do anything to the spike. He could feel it start to change, but the change was slow. It's starting to give, Cosmos said. Olympian threw his shoulders back and pulled like his own life depended on the spike moving. She concentrated as hard as she could to keep Olympian's hands from slipping off of the spike. Cosmos felt the spike changing faster and it became somewhat flexible. Olympian fell backwards with the gold and blood-drenched spike in his hands. Bioforce started pouring her healing power into Omni. Dr. DeClute dropped to her knees and started doing the same. Wave quickly joined them. I still don't feel a heartbeat, Bioforce said. You repair the heart, and we'll try to keep the rest of them alive, Dr. DeClute said. It's not working. Some of that matrix energy is still swirling around. Keep trying. It will go down. The other alphas sat around and watched as the three healers worked. Cosmos, she, Olympian, Darkspeed, and all the rest felt very helpless as they watched on. Come on, son. Don't die here, Stan said as he held Omni's face.